You know, right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in entertainment, media, sports, entrepreneurship, and so much more. Nick Durst here, along with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, it's not every episode that we have an award-winning director who's also a big New York Rangers fan who happens to be on air in New York and is also part of the Fox 5 family joining us. But that is what we have on this episode here today.
Yeah, we have a lot more too. She has an incredible story, an incredible backstory, very significant for our viewers and our listeners. As you mentioned, you can watch her on Fox 5. And, once upon a time, it used to be just around dinner time in the evenings, but now she's doing a lot of other things. She's got her own show that we'll talk about. You could see her with either Bianca Peters or our former guest, Steve Lacy. But we're very, very happy to have her on. She's a very busy person, so we're thankful she took the time out to join us today. We welcome Natasha Verma to the show. Natasha, first of all, how are you? Second of all, did you like the intro?
I love the intro. Thanks, guys. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on. I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
We are doing well. We're continuing to get you and all of your colleagues on our esteemed program, and we're happy to have you on with us now. So let's get right into it. First, I wanted to ask you, do you think the modern mall is dead? How much longer we have here with the malls being in existence, the brick and mortar malls?
Oh, the malls. I remember going to the mall growing up. I love going to the mall. There's something about going in person and looking at the clothes that I think is better than online shopping. That being said, I do a lot of online shopping. So I don't think the malls are dead. I think that what's old is new. It's going to come back.
I'll say I rarely go to the mall, but I did go recently to an aquarium in a New Jersey mall to bring my son, and the whole wing was dark. There was every store was empty, forefront was empty. So
Really?
I don't know what's gonna happen here with the rents really high on a lot of these malls, but some of the malls keep expanding. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, they might turn into pickleball courts.
Well, I was
That's
gonna
the good stuff.
say, so I mean, I have family that lives scattered throughout Florida, and there's this area. So Nick and I are from Staten Island, so we actually have the Staten Island Mall, but there are a couple of locations, including one on Highland Boulevard, where they've kind of like created
Outdoor
almost like
mall.
an outdoor mall. So
Yeah.
it comes with the movie theater and the chain restaurants and everything that you can kind of want. And there's a nice little store over there where you can get like Nike and Adidas apparel, like a high-end store.
The
So
outlets.
I think those outlets, the one that you find by the ferry too, Nick, those are kind of the future, the outdoor stuff.
We'll
I like
see.
the outdoor malls. I think those are the open air ones are really nice. With the movie theaters attached. Like I grew up in South Texas, Victoria, Texas, small town, and there was one mall there and it was one floor. And I remember like after school, just as teenagers, we would just go from like one end of the mall and just walk back and forth and meet all your friends and go to every single store. And
Mhm.
I think there's just something about it that's so nostalgic, and I feel like they're gonna have a resurgence or something. They've got to come back. But the outdoor malls, it's probably where it's at.
Depends on the geographical climate. Too
Yeah,
cold here for the
Texas
outdoor
is
malls.
great. Texas, you can
Sure.
have, your year-round outdoor malls. It's kind of hard here in New York, New Jersey. It's tough. You have to have some sort of attraction at a mall to kind of
Mhm.
bring people in. I think now businesses are going to need to focus on an experience, and that's how it's going to be. They can't just have shops that you can come to. It's no longer like that. I think people are um people are in the age of social media. We all have short attention spans. So you want to be able to immerse someone in something, have an experience, build it out in order to attract people and Gen Z to come out to the malls.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned social media. You in your job, you need to be locked in. You need to know what's going on out there in the world. So when you wake up in the morning, what's the first app you're checking on your phone?
Instagram. I check Instagram first. And then I work my way. Well, first of all, I check my text messages because I always
Yeah.
wake up to like everyone wanting something,
Mm.
and I'm getting up and I'm seeing all the text, and then I'll look at my emails, and then I'll like work my way through social media, and then try not to get myself into like a social media time warp hole that early in the morning. So it's hard, but yeah, I'm so like I'm so addicted to my phone. I've got my phone everywhere I go.
See, I'm surprised, Joe. Not when people say text message. That's the first thing I check is if I'm seeing it, if I got a text, I'll check that before I
Yeah.
end up doing anything else, and I'll check email before I end up, checking social media.
Yeah, I do I'll do text messages first now that I think about it because I that's high priority one of, you know, what fires need to be put out and then
Mhm.
we work our way from there.
Natasha, how many group chats are you in? I
Oh,
imagine you have
good.
one for your family, one for your friends, one for your colleagues. How many in total, you think?
Good question. I think I'm in like 10 group chats.
That's
I
what piles it up.
yeah, I've definitely got one for my family. I've got one just the five of us total, like the core family, and then
Mhm.
I've got one where we've also included like siblings, significant others in that one. So there's two separate ones.
So there's the one where you talk about the others, and then there's one where
Exactly. Yeah. The
right.
one where we, smack talk and the other one where it's like everyone's inclusive and included in everything. But yeah, I think like I definitely put all my embarrassing text messages to only my core family group into one so I don't feel judged in the other one. And then I'm in like various, I'm in like the three friend group chats are my favorite because those are just like they're just
Mhm.
never ending. And then I'm in one that's got four people in it. Oh, yeah, and I've got one with Bianca and our 6 p.m. producer, and we're just like, we have this thing on the 6 o'clock news called the list at six, and it's where we pick the trending stories, and basically Bianca and I just kind of talk about it, and it's total ad lib, and it's just our opinions on stuff. And so we're constantly texting in that group chat of things that caught our eye or things that were just like so outrageous. So that's a group chat. I'm in a lot. I'm in a lot.
Don't you hate it when there's always that one friend or family member with the Android that messes up the whole group chat?
They don't actually, I'm not in a group chat with green texters.
They're not allowed.
Nothing against green texters, but I mean they really do ruin a group chat. I try not to engage in those because you can't send pictures
Oh, the
and
videos are
then
the worst.
Oh,
Oh,
they come
brutal.
distorted and everything. They're always off size. It's just the worst.
yeah, get with the program. It's 2025. Go get an iPhone. Okay? Go get an iPhone.
Yeah, we have a friend like that who always messes everything up.
Right. And then for some reason when I see, oh, is that you?
No, no,
You're
it's one of our
no?
friends.
Okay, one of your friends.
We're Apple
Okay.
guys. We have iPhone.
Bro,
I feel like, when I see a green text, I don't even know if my text went through. I don't
Right.
know why. I'm like, did the pigeon deliver the text message? Like,
the
how do I
pigeon.
know it's there?
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about your upbringing. You were in Texas, Texas girl, and college. You stayed local at first, Hook 'em,
Okay,
University
that's
of
right.
Texas, biology, and also broadcast journalism degrees.
Yeah.
Youngest graduate in the history of the school at 17. So were you homeschooled? How did you end up on that path to get there so early? And what was it like being a double major there as a teenager?
It was a pretty wild experience. I love UT. I bleed burnt orange. I'm all about Texas. Texas is the school that made me. It's where I discovered journalism and where I realized that that's what I wanted to really do long term for my career. It was a very interesting experience to be a teenager. Like, I think I started when I was 13, 14, taking classes there. Um, Actually, how old was I? Yeah, like 14, 15, taking classes, summer school there. I did in high school, I did high school and junior college together. So that's how I was able to graduate with my high school diploma and my associate's degree. So I knocked out 2 years of college during high school, and then I was able to get into the University of Texas and I thought I was going to be a doctor, and I was accepted into the College of Natural Sciences. I started to do biology, pre-med, and then I came across broadcast journalism, and I'm like, wait, this is what I meant to do. I love it so much. And on campus, they have this Texas Student TV, which is the only FCC licensed TV station in the country that's operated by students. So I launched a morning show on campus called Good Morning Texas that still is airing today to like 250,000 homes and the dorms on campus. And that's when I really fell in love with television. And I ended up interning for Fox, ironically, in Austin, which is a owned and operated station out there. So that was my first ever experience with TV broadcast, and I was sold. I loved it. And I ended up, so I graduated at 17 and I got accepted into the Columbia University and graduate school of journalism. And that's when that's kind of what set me off for my career in journalism. So while I was there, I started reporting for News 12 in the Bronx.
So before we get to the News 12 stuff, I want to ask a question that's on everybody's mind. Have you ever met Matthew McConaughey?
I have not met Matthew McConaughey. Want to
But
meet
you
him
want to
so
meet
bad.
Matthew McConaughey,
I would
absolutely.
love to meet Matthew McConaughey so I could just be so annoying and say, all right, all right, all right. But
Okay,
I
so
mean,
we're gonna clip that, Nick. That's what we're
you
gonna use for
totally
social.
should. He shows up to all of the football games. I feel like he's our unofficial like mascot of
Yeah.
UT right now.
What's it
And
like going to a Longhorns football game?
it's so much fun. It's just like it's electric. It's awesome. Like the whole campus is just transformed.
So
It's
I
just
was there. I was there for a bachelor weekend in November.
in Austin.
And yeah, and what we went on a weekend that didn't have a game, naturally. But I ended up scootering around and I ended up driving scootering to the campus and I went around the stadium
Hmm.
and I went and I tried to get to the Lyndon B. Johnson Presidential Library and I didn't realize how early it closed on Sunday. So I got there like kind of right around 5 and it closes at 5, so I missed the opportunity to. But I mean the campus was beautiful and
Yeah.
it's on a hill, right, Nick? So it's like if you're looking beyond campus, like you could see back to like the downtown Austin area. It's really, really nice.
It's 40 acres. And when I was in school, all of the bio classes were on one end of the campus, and then all the journalism were on the other end. So I actually had to take like they have a campus bus system, so I had to take a bus from one end to the other end. It's a massive campus, and the stadium is awesome. Like that whole area is just really cool. And I mean, UT's a like a is a football school. I
Hmm.
mean, so I mean, football is like in Texas, football is religion. It
Yeah.
is. It just is.
So you're a country girl and then you come to Columbia. How quickly did you become a city slicker and get used to the Big Apple?
I love New York. I was born in New York City, and it was always my dream to somehow make my way back here. I love Texas and I love the country. But there's something about New York that's just that at like 14, I just felt so compelled to be there. And so I very quickly adapted to city life. Like I like that fast-paced life. It's all about balance, I think, because like now I'm at a point where I like the fast pace, but I also like to slow down. So I miss some of that too that I experienced in Texas, but I loved it. I came to Columbia and I was just like, wow, there's so many different food options here. There's so much to do here. Every neighborhood is like its own little mini city. And so I had a blast. I mean, Austin is home and it's so fun, but New York is just I think the greatest city in the world.
Okay, so you love New York. You started working your career in New York right away in the Bronx, News 12.
Hmm.
And that must have been pretty awesome for you to start working right away. And it's a unique situation at News 12 where it's you're in a big market, but it's a small market job. So talk to
Yeah.
us about the experiences you had there, how you were able to, get your reel together and grow before you ultimately, made the move to a bigger market in Florida.
Mhm. Yeah, I was a one-man band reporter. So I, carried a 20-pound camera, 20-pound tripod, went to my shoots, did everything, tracked, recorded, shot my own stand-ups, everything but a live shot. And then I come back, edit it, present it, write it, all that stuff. So I did everything from start to finish. And that really like built me and it gave me all the tools to realize that it's important to do everything in this job so you know everyone's job. And so I was able to do that. I mean, there were times when like I was 19 years old.
Mhm.
So there were times when the news desk would call me and say, like, yeah, shots fired at projects over here in the Bronx, and, the cops aren't there yet, but we just want you to go spray it. And I'd be like, okay, sure, I'm gonna go. And I was just so fearless, and I would just go and shoot everything. Um, and it was a great experience, but there was just no opportunity for me to grow. I really wanted to anchor. That's what I wanted to do. And there was no opportunity for me to grow. So I remember at the time, like the news director sat me down and was like, hey, there is no opportunity for you here. You're going to have to leave. And that was really, really heartbreaking for me because I didn't want to leave New York, but I knew that sometimes you have to take a chance on yourself and you have to realize that you have to leave in order to grow. And that taught me, and that was an experience that taught me um, that I had to really just think about growth. And so I put together a reel, shopped it out there, and I ended up getting hired by NBC2 at Fort Myers, Florida, as a reporter anchor. And that was a really, really hard adjustment to go from New York City to the middle of nowhere, Florida. Not even like the East Coast of Florida, but the West Coast. Like they call it, there's Cape Coral, Florida. They call it Cape Snorkel, and it's so true. And that was a really, really hard adjustment to do. But you gotta work your way up. You gotta do the grind in order to get back to New York. So
Mhm.
that was kind of the start. And that was like, I feel like that was my first real news station where I can really start to develop my talents. And I filled and anchored on their primetime shows. And so I learned a lot in Florida.
So talk to us the process then there of, doing the typical stuff, the market hopping. When your
Hmm.
contract's coming out, how did you kind of shop yourself around? Next, you go to Boston, and then you go to Denver. So talk to us those next two stops.
Yeah, so I mean, you get to a city and you're like, okay, I'm here for basically a contract, and you want to keep growing and moving up. And my goal was to get back here to New York. So I knew that I had to, let's go to market number 62 and let's work our way up, but also having to do it to where, you don't pigeonhole yourself into just reporting. I also needed to anchor. And so that's how I kind of, had to take every opportunity. So you go with the flow. So I get to Florida. I'm there for 2 years, and I realized that I don't want to stay there. I want to start shopping around. So I'm saving all my clips. I'm making a reel, and I reach out to news directors. And at the time, NBC Universal had just they were building a brand new station in Boston, which was unheard of in 2016 for a station to do that and just like create a new station. So they were looking for people to staff this brand new station, NBC Boston. And they hired me for that. And that was major. That was like, okay, I'm back in like top 10 with an O&O, and that was a huge opportunity to get to NBC Boston. But they wanted me to be a traffic anchor. And
Hmm.
I was like, I don't want to do traffic. So I told them that I really wanted to report. So the only way that I was going to do the deal is if I could get out there and I could go report, because I knew that that was the experience that I really wanted to have, and something that I did in Florida that I wanted to keep growing on, because I feel like an anchor needs to know, I mean, has to know how to report. That's built in with what you do. So, so yeah, I ended up getting the job, the call to Boston, and I ended up moving to Boston, and I was there for 3 years. And then once that contract is up, again, you start to consider, okay, what's next for me? And I get sat down again, which is like, Natasha, we don't have any anchor jobs for you in Boston. And I was like, I actually love Boston so much, I would have stayed if they had an anchor job available, because it would be like, okay, I'll stay and I'll keep growing myself to get to New York.
Hmm.
But I had to make a decision there and then of like, okay, I need to leave. And so again comes the shopping period where you're reaching out, you're networking, you're cold calling, you're going to all the conferences and conventions and just putting yourself out there. And this job pops up out in Denver with 9 News as a weekday morning anchor. And at this point, I'd only done morning show. I did morning show in News 12 in the Bronx. I did morning show in Florida. I did morning show in Boston. I always woke up at 2 a.m. So I I kind of knew the deal with that. I'm like, fine, I'll do it again in Denver. But this was good because it was a full-time anchor job. So, and morning shows are great because I was on air for 5 hours straight. So that's breaking news, that's all political news, that's all the news, all the interviews, and then you're going to the kitchen and you're doing live interviews, you're doing sports. So there's so much opportunity to ad lib and build those skills. And when you're on air for 5 hours a day, that just builds up your skill set to a solid place. And then there was a lot of news happening out in Colorado, like in Denver. Um, and there's great sports there too.
Hmm.
So, I was able to cover a lot of stuff. I get out to Denver, there for 3 years, and then realized that I didn't want to be there anymore. And when I left Nine News, I was kind of out of a job for 3 months, and that was really hard because I was looking and looking and nothing was popping up, and I was doing interviews and it was discouraging and it was scary and it was a stressful time. And then this job popped up with Fox 5 New York. And I remember getting the call and I just could not believe it. I was like, wait, Natasha Verma, like me? Are you sure they have the right person? And my agent was like, yeah, you. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my dream job. And so that was 3 years ago. And it was for the 5, 6, and 10 o'clock news. And I couldn't believe it. It was just such a dream come true to come finally make it back to New York. Because I feel like I'd been just hustling and moving and relocating for
Yeah.
so long for 10 years just to get back here.
Time flies now. 3 years in the Big Apple, which is hard to believe. And
Oh,
when you're going through this process here to come here to number one market and anchor evening, which is a big switch for you from the more
mhm,
relaxed, daisical mornings.
mhm.
What was that process like as far as when you're talking to news directors, or is your agent doing that for you? Was there anything they asked you specifically to send over? Did you have to actually do anything on camera for them to test it out? What was that whole process like?
For Fox,
Yes.
I actually didn't rehearse. I didn't do a rehearsal for Fox. I didn't even meet my co-anchor. It was kind of a top secret
Crazy.
operation. I also was told I couldn't tell anyone in my life except for
Mm.
I had to ask them, like, I have to tell my parents that I got this job. Like, I have to tell my parents, but I didn't tell my sister who lives here.
Ooh.
Like, it was top secret. And then I thought, oh my gosh, and Steve Lacy, is he gonna be cool? Like, are we gonna vibe? And I ended up like researching him, and this interview that he did on your podcast popped up. So I'm like, oh, he likes fish and he worked in Boston. Like, we're gonna get along. This
Perfect.
is fine. So
You know I'm right. Building chemistry in the Big Apple for on-air anchors.
it's like that's part of it, right? That's what we do. Chemistry is so important on air, the repertoire. But yeah, I didn't know what to expect. But when I did the interview with my news director, he he and I had such a connection, and he just knew. He was like, I don't need to do rehearsal. I kind of know your stuff. I've seen your stuff. I know you can do the job. And this was the other thing too. He There was a question in the interview which was, what like when in your life has shit hit the fan? And how did you get out of it? Because in New York City, that happens all the time. And this is a city of resilient people, of gritty people, of people who've like gone through it.
Hmm.
And you have to be resilient. And that's the thing about New York. It is not a city for the weak. I mean, it is a tough place.
Yeah.
It's a tough city. And so the question was posed that way. And he and I kind of both knew the answer, which is that I survived cancer. And that's a that's a test of someone's spirit and strength. And that's something that I came out of. And not only did I come out of it, but I also created a nonprofit out of it too, a cause out of it. Like I had a really difficult time with my hair loss during chemo and realized that there weren't any resources. So I ended up creating this nonprofit where we make and give real hair cap wigs to cancer patients, the Verma Foundation. And so that idea of turning a negative into something positive to help other people, I feel like that is something that New Yorkers resonate with, they get, and that was perhaps the most important question in the interview, which was like, can you handle how difficult the city is? And I can. And I think that that's kind of what sealed the deal.
So let's talk about that for a second because on my mother's side, there's breast cancer and it runs in the family. And my aunt recently had it. My grandmother had it. She had a breast removed 20 something years ago. Uh, so you kind of had an inkling, right, based on your family's history, that there was, some things that ran. But talk about that, and then also talk about what goes into the forming of the Verma Foundation and getting all of that stuff kind of off the ground.
Yeah, totally. So when I was in Boston, again, working the morning show, I just remember waking up 2 a.m. and I felt this shooting pain down the left side of my arm, and I felt in that area and I felt a lump. And I didn't really think too much of it other than it didn't really concern me, but I knew that on my dad's side, both of his parents, my grandparents had cancer. So, you don't initially think of cancer, but you're like, oh, a lump doesn't sound good. I just remember that the pain wouldn't go away. I ended up calling my dad, who is a doctor, and asked him about it. And he's like, you should go to, the ER and get it checked out. The first doctor gave me pain meds and was like, go on your way. And of course, like the pain went away, but the lump was still there. So I went to a second doctor, and that doctor literally told me, like, sweetie, you're going to get bumps and bruises all over your body. You don't need to come in for every single one of them. I was 23 at the time. I felt so dismissed, but I kept pushing and kept pushing. And finally, they got me an ultrasound. And that day, I remember there were beds available, and like one technician came in and was doing the ultrasound. And then she got like a second tech to come in. And I just remember thinking, like, oh boy, something's happening. And then they ended up doing the CT scan, and it came back, like my body like lit up, like it came back cancerous activity. We do the PET scan, and it's stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. So that's how I found it. And it was pretty much like a whirlwind from there. It just feels like I was going through the motion. I couldn't believe I was diagnosed with cancer. I also didn't know what Hodgkin's lymphoma was. Like I just remember being like, what? Cancer? And I remember telling the doctor, like cancer, like chemo cancer, like yeah. So I go through chemo, and that just completely changed my life. It put, like, at that point at NBC Boston, I'm like, okay, I'm up for like a promotion to anchor, and there was so much going on professionally, and I was getting opportunity, and then all of a sudden you get cancer, and it's like everything stops. Everything stops, nothing else matters, only the cancer matters. And so for the next year, I did chemo for about 4 or 5 months, and I lost all my hair, and that was really, really hard for me to do. Like, there are no resources for women out there who are looking for a wig. I remember I went to like a wig shop, and they had like a synthetic wig which is like fake hair, which was covered by insurance. And the lady put a blonde wig on me, and she's like, oh, you look so cute blonde. And I'm like, I don't want to experiment with my hair. I want my hair back. Like, I don't want to go through this. I just want to look like myself. I want to feel normal. And so what I do is I got a synthetic brown hair wig, and I put a baseball cap on top of it. And that would kind of conceal the hairline so people wouldn't know like that it looked fake. And that was the idea of a cap wig was born. And so then my family already had a family foundation in place. We established it back in 2013. So that was already in place, but by 2016 or 2016, 2017, when I was diagnosed, that's when it became apparent that we wanted to change our mission to focus it on cancer patients. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit. And then I started to work with my mom. Like I was in chemo And just like it was a really hard time because I was on all these pain meds and I'm allergic to pain meds and I've never had any interaction with pain meds, medications of any sort. Like I don't like taking medicine or medications. And so I just remember like being bedridden, like I was at home and my brain was working, but my body was in so much pain that I couldn't do anything. And I felt like this so mind body betrayal of everything. But so I had time. So I'm sitting there on my computer thinking like how can I do something good? Obviously the hair was a problem and we've got this foundation. So what are we going to do? So I talked to my mom about creating these cap wigs and so we started working with a hair manufacturer and she sent me like a prototype of it back and it comes back and like the baseball cap is like really itchy on the inside. So we ended up putting like a lining in there that's super soft. And then I wanted real hair that's totally custom to a patient. I
Mm.
didn't want artificial hair. So we went back and forth in creating this cap wig. And then I built the website. Like I had so much time and I was like in between chemo. So I'm like, whatever. So I built the website and I created an application and then I announced to, because at this time I had not announced on social media that I had cancer. I kind of just like went off the grid and all of these news blogs came out and were accusing me of getting fired from NBC and like rumors, like, where's Natasha? Like, just rumors were flying around. And I'm reading all this stuff and I'm like, well, you guys are really going to feel bad when you find out that I actually had cancer. And I ended up announcing on social media that, hey guys, like I have cancer, but I'm in remission now. And instead of like sympathy or, flowers, donate to this nonprofit that I've started to help other women who are going through cancer and losing their hair so we can get them cap wigs for free and they can feel like themselves again and they can feel empowered and they can go through it. And so that's how we raised our initial money for the project. And we raised thousands and thousands. And then all of like Fox News, we were on Yahoo, we were on Allure magazine, we were on like Huffington Post at the time. Like it went viral, my
Yeah.
story. And I was able to use all that virality and also everyone's interest to raise money. And that got us off the ground to make our first batch of orders for patients. And that was when I realized, like, oh, wow, for a long time, I thought, oh, losing my hair, I feel so vain. But
Mm.
these women reached out to me and they're like, oh my God, we've been looking for something like this, a solution to the hair loss. And this changed my life. And so I really, really felt like I made an impact and and didn't feel alone. Like I felt like there was a community around me and I felt very understood. And so that truly was the birth of the Verma Foundation.
Well, you did an excellent job with that. And as a cancer survivor, you have to make the most of each moment. And you did. You
Mhm.
turned something terrible into something really good. And you're taking things to the next level with that. So kudos
Yeah.
to you with the foundation. We appreciate the work you're doing out there.
Thank you. Yeah, we've given close to over 3,000 cap wigs to patients around the world. I mean, I
Nice.
had patients from Singapore reach out to
Wow.
me. Like I was like, how'd you guys hear about us? Like just on Google. Like we were Googling a solution to the hair loss and we came across your
Yeah.
foundation. So I just realized that, the need goes beyond geographical location. It's just hair is hair and it's your identity and people often when they're going through chemo they just want some normalcy and they want privacy to fight
Yeah.
and hair loss is equally as traumatic and it's not addressed as much as it should
Absolutely.
be.
So your news director was right. You fought that. You could make if you make it here, you can make it anywhere in New York. Ready
100%.
place for you. So you move here. It's all under wraps, and like you mentioned it. Okay, you're gonna work with Steve Lacy. You don't know anything about this guy. So what's the best thing about working with him now, and how are you able to build that chemistry over the past 3 years working together on air?
Yeah, I was like very apprehensive. I hadn't met anybody in the building, so I
Mm.
didn't know, you think of New York and you're like, oh, it's got to be filled with these divas and it's got to be filled with these difficult people. I mean, I have worked with like divas in Florida, Fort Myers, Florida, New York City. I mean, my first person I met was Rosanna Scotto the most amazing, down to earth, kindest human being that's just like so badass. And I'm like, oh my God, I get to work with Rosanna. And then I meet Steve and he's so awesome. And we like just connect on our Boston connection, the fact that we both, and that's like, you know, Boston thinks that it's the hub of the universe. So once you've worked there, you like understand Boston news. It's very unique, and it's so he and I bonded on Massachusetts and everything that covered there. Um, and then we became friends, like off camera, and then that translates on camera.
Yep.
So much so that I was like, you know what, Steve, you love fish. I'll go with you to a fish concert. That's a commitment. That's a
Mhm.
commitment. And I was there. I went to the New Year's Eve run with him, and I think we went to the December 30th show at MSG, and it was a great experience. But I'm all about building connections and building relationships in this industry, and it's so important for me that it's like that you have those genuine connections. And, I've done the same with Bianca too, 6 o'clock news, we anchor together. And so it's important that you like the people you work with, right? It makes life easier.
Absolutely. So there's this picture of you seeing yourself on a billboard in Times Square.
Yeah.
Now, as Nick and I know, as native New Yorkers, the absolute last place you will ever want to find yourself in New York City is in Times
Right.
Square. It is a
Right.
tourist trap. We all know that very, very well. However, if you do get yourself on a billboard there, it is pretty cool. And the buses, the taxis, other billboards around the area. So there are perks, right, when it comes to hosting the nightly news
Right.
for one
Right.
of the major stations, right, in the country. So talk us about some of the other perks, right, that you've gotten, since you came back to New York and you joined Fox.
Yeah, I mean, like if you put my face on a billboard, fine, I'll go to Times Square. You got me, or you can drag me there. That was an awesome moment because that was another one of those full circle moments of I remember when I was 12 and my mom's like, all right, let's do a family trip to New York. We're gonna go see the Statue of Liberty. We're gonna go to Times Square and do all the touristy things. And I remember 12 years old going to Times Square, just like looking around at all the lights, being like, oh my God, I want to live here. Like, this is so cool. This is like, I wanted to escape Texas so bad. I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. And so to then come back at 30 years old and like 29 at the time and like see myself on a billboard was just was surreal. I can't even put that experience into words. It was just surreal. I couldn't believe it. And then to bring my family to and they were able to see that as well was just such a magical moment. Um that was definitely a perk. And then I remember like when I was on the buses with Steve, that was super cool too, because my mom would come visit me and we'd have the buses lined up on York Avenue. And so we go look to see if the buses have my picture on it. Oh my God, that one does. And we go take a picture with it. So that was a really cool moment. Or seeing the buses drive by while I'm like walking on the street and seeing my face. Like it's just such a surreal moment to see all of that. So yeah, I mean, there are perks to the jobs like that, like, the billboards and seeing yourself on the buses and taxis. It's been a really cool moment. And then just like, Yankees games, Rangers games. I've yet to go to a Knicks game. That's what I need to go to next. I'm going to do that this season. So it's just, I love being in New York. It's just the greatest place.
Have you ever been approached on the street by anybody
Yeah.
saying like, "Oh, you're Natasha Verma"?
Yeah, I
How does
have.
how does that work? Because there's probably the good side to that and the bad side to that.
Yeah, I have had mostly positive experiences here. People come up to me and they see me, maybe they've seen my videos on social media or they've seen me on the news or they're like I just remember like the other night I was walking home and some guy was like, "Whoa, that's the lady on the news. She's on the 10 o'clock news. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And I think people are it's a cool feeling. We had a couple of ads during the Super Bowl, and that was really cool too. To see people say like, oh, I saw you during the Super Bowl. So a lot of cool moments, but I do get approached, and mostly they've been positive. There have been a couple times, most that happened in Denver, where someone saw where I was and they like followed me there, but they were like nice about it, but that was really creepy. And so I'm like, maybe I'm not going to post in real time where I'm at. So I stopped doing that.
I think the biggest perk probably has to be not waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I think
Yes.
that's got to be huge. So walk us through a typical work day now for you as far as from when you wake up to when you go to
Mhm.
sleep.
Not waking up at 2 a.m. has like changed my life so much. I really don't want to do that again. So I enjoy, so I'll wake up and my day depends, like the day depends on my, my schedule. Um, but I've also launched a podcast here at Fox called Talking with Natasha. And so we'll do some of those shoots at noon. So that'll change my day. So every day is different depending, but like a regular day, I'll wake up in the morning. Depends, but I'll like go to the gym. First, I catch up on the news, wake up, check my text messages, my group chats, all social media. Then I do a total news. I'll consume. Like I love consuming news. So I'll consume a ton of news. I'll watch a broadcast, and then I'll formulate story ideas for the day or things that I want to talk about in the show. And I'll email that out to our producers. And then usually I'll go to the gym. I'm a big runner, so I love to run. I'm training right now. I'm training for the Chicago Marathon. So I'll go and like start my training for that and work out, breakfast, and then if I've got to shoot, I'll come to the station, and then we've got a 3 o'clock meeting normally every day for our 10 o'clock news, and then I'm on air from 5 to 7 p.m. Then I've got a break, and then I'm on air again at 10.
Okay. And
But
when are you usually back at your apartment by?
my gosh, I don't want to share that.
Okay. I don't. All right.
Have someone show up at my
We don't
apartment.
know where you live.
Well, we don't know where you live.
Are
It's
you in before around midnight? You're home safely.
I'm usually home by yeah, like midnight. I'm usually home by
Perfect.
midnight, but then I don't go to sleep till like 2 a.m. because I'm
you're a
like
night owl now.
So you went from
yeah,
waking up
now
at
You went from waking
2
up
to going to
to going to
sleep at
bed.
2.
Oh,
I'm
that's the
like
great.
falling asleep when I used to wake up. Like everything is so like opposite now. But I'm just like so jacked up on adrenaline from the show, and then I want to actually like wind down
Yeah.
and maybe
Do you
like
watch
watch.
any like regular TV or anything?
Yeah, like the other day I'm watching White Lotus right now, which is just like a really upsetting slow burn.
Yep.
So I'm watching I'm watching White Lotus. I started watching that show Adolescence on Netflix, which is just really, really dark. Watching that.
So you
I
like
have my
those dark murder mystery type of
I
shows?
love those kinds of
I mean, I
shows.
guess that's the kind of news you're reporting on too, so it makes
True,
sense.
yeah. Might as well just carry that out into my escapism as well. And then I always go to like I've got these comfort shows that I love, like The Office. I'm like rewatching Curb right now, and then I'm also rewatching Parks and Rec for some reason. And so I'll just like put those on for feel good shows. I'll watch movies. So I watch a lot of TV streaming.
Nice. So,
Very
what would you
nice.
say in your life, from really more so career-wise, would be your you know I'm right moment? What I mean by that, it's a time or place where you wanted to pursue something. You asked somebody for advice, and they said, Natasha, that's not going to work out. Like, why would you even attempt that? What are you, crazy? And you were like, listen, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And in the end, you will see why it is that I'm right about this. And I can tell you I told you so.
I think that really had to be the moment when I had to make that decision when I was 17 at the University of Texas of whether I was going to go to med school or I was going to totally break away from everything that I was thinking of doing and pursue journalism. And that was like a leap of faith where I'm like, you know what? I think I'm really good at this. I think I'm gonna be fine. And that was a big decision that I had to make. And
Mhm.
so that was, and I remember my family was very supportive, but obviously apprehensive because, my dad's a doctor and my whole life had thought I wanted to do that. And then I had to make that decision to kind of break away from what the family wanted and do my own thing and chart my own course. And my family's so supportive now. And my dad initially was like, he's like, oh, well, you're a great writer and presenter. And I always knew that you were, probably going to do something with journalism, but I had to really, bet on myself. And, and that was a whole new course that I just didn't know. I didn't know journalism 101. I didn't know how to take my career. I just had to learn as I go, and I learned a lot in in the last decade that I've been doing this.
Well, you've certainly done a great job because you anchor the nightly news at various different times here in New York City, right? And as Nick's mentioned before, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Yes.
Most people, they go elsewhere to come here. That's exactly what you did. So, Natasha, I don't know if you figured this out yet, but the guy who I host the show with, who started the show, he's a total superstar.
Nice.
He's got on-air experience. He's got digital production experience, knows his way around a little bit. And, I think we work really well together. Now, maybe not as great as you and Steve together, but I think we have pretty excellent chemistry as well. I tell people all the time, we're salt and pepper. So, there's a lot of things going on at Fox. And Nick and I, we've had Kurt Menefee on the show with us. We've had Tina Servasio. We've
Yes.
had Steve Lacy. Now we've had you. We got to get to the rest of them. We got to get Bianca on the show
Yeah.
somehow. Hopefully someday we get Rosanna. We know she's got a busy schedule too. But with everything that you guys have going on over there, and especially with your new podcast now, I don't know. I think there's opportunity here for you. I'm right to come on, kind of beef up what you guys are doing
Oh,
over there.
yeah.
Maybe we can make an appearance on the show. What do you think?
Yeah, you guys want to come on to 6 o'clock news?
Oh, yeah. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, that's
Let's have you
awesome.
on. Let's have you on.
Get
Sounds
back
like a
to my
plan.
first love. That's amazing.
Yeah. That would be super fun. And then you guys can also ask Bianca if she wants to come on too. That'd be great.
Let's
Well,
make it
yeah, we
happen.
have to think about what we're going to talk about, but we'll maybe we'll do that.
And we could get like a Fox 5 thing at either the Yankees game or if the Rangers make the playoffs, as of now, they're still alive.
Wow.
Nick's a
Natasha's
little less.
next.
Nick's a
That would be
little.
amazing.
He's like slightly more pessimistic when it comes to New York sports than I am, and that makes sense because he's a Mets fan and I'm a Yankees fan.
Oh, no.
But the Rangers are still alive. The Yankees, the Bronx Bombers are back, and I think the Mets are going to be pretty good too.
Yeah,
So I think that kind of makes sense. What do you think?
Make it happen.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
All right.
I'm
Come
a Yankees
on.
fan.
You gotta put
yeah.
you should be wearing an Astros hat, Natasha.
No,
Oh
boo.
yeah, no, I'm a Yankees fan.
There you go. She got it
No,
right.
no Astros. No, I'm a Yankees fan. Yeah, but I think it's exciting. Wow, can you imagine like a Subway series?
We
World
almost had it
Series
last
match
year.
again. Like maybe, that'd be great.
That would be. The NCAA tournament, it's still going on as we're recording this, and Nick is a St. John's grad, and I went to a game against Marquette earlier this season at the Garden with a friend of ours. So, we thought St. John's. We're waiting for the New York team that's going to do it. We've been waiting 10 years. Which one? Who's the team that's going to do it, Natasha?
The Liberty did it last year.
Rangers.
That's our
Yeah,
team.
the Liberty. That's the answer. The Liberty. The Liberty already did it for us.
Fair.
But
I think the
Rangers,
Liberty is going to do it again. I mean, we kind of like, of course, Fox is the media sponsor for the Liberties, so we kind of like
We
will
went to a
that
Liberty
into
game.
existence, huh?
Nick and I covered a Liberty game a couple of years ago.
It's
Pretty
It was pretty
exciting.
awesome
cool. It was.
experience.
It was a really
It's like
great
a party.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a party. It's super
They do a
fun.
really, really good job there.
Yeah, I think, our football teams aren't the greatest,
Oh,
but
no.
Baseball season just started, so let's see. Maybe the Mets can go all the way. Juan
Let's hope.
Soto, maybe.
Fingers crossed.
But we're rooting for the Rangers though.
The Rangers too. Yeah, the games that I've gone to, they've been winning, so that was really good.
We got to
But
get
that's
you there for the rest of the season as
I'm
it
gonna
yeah, I
say
know.
it seems like
Yeah,
you're the good luck charm.
I think so. Yeah, every time I go, they win. I'm like, oh, this is great, and then they don't do too well. So yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Nick and I are on the 6 o'clock news very, very soon, and then we can
Yes,
get
let's make it
everybody else on.
happen.
I
Yeah.
love that. That sounds like a great idea to us. Anyway, Natasha, we know you have a busy day coming up for the rest of the day. We know we got to get you to your meeting really, really soon. So we appreciate your time again. This was a lot of fun. We hope you had a lot of fun with it. What we do here is we always give our guests the last word. So if there's anything else that you personally haven't shared or promoted for yourself yet, by all means, go ahead. Where can we find you? And once again, we thank you for your time. We appreciate this and can't wait till this comes out.
Thank you so much for having me on. You can find me on Instagram, Natasha_Verma. Also look me up on YouTube, Talking with Natasha. I'm on Instagram too, Facebook, TikTok. I'm on all the stuff, Natasha Verma. But thank you so much for having me on. It's so great to finally be on this podcast. Full circle because I saw Steve on this podcast. And so now I get to be on it too. It's exciting.
You
well, this
never know who is listening and you never know who is
is
watching,
true.
Nick.
That's right.
This has
That's
been
right. You
great,
never know.
Natasha. We'll definitely have you and Steve on together in the future.
Yeah,
It'll be
his
a
office is
lot of
just right
fun.
next to
So
mine.
send our best to Steve. We know he never misses a
You know.
Sunday show for Fish at MSG.
He
And
never does.
his
No.
wife is an angel for putting up with him going through the end of the year every year at his
Yeah,
Fish
Anna's
shows.
awesome. Yep, Anna is really awesome, and we gotta get her out to a concert maybe soon. Show.
There you
Yeah.
go. Make it happen. So that's going to do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right. For our special guest, Natasha Verma, my co-host Joe Calabrese, I'm Nick Durst, and this has been You Know I'm Right.